It all started one evening when I came home to our two-bedroom apartment on the outskirts of a small American city, where I live with my wife Emily and her mom, Susan. 3 years of marriage, a time when you think you've tried everything in the bedroom, from romantic candles to spontaneous experiments after a bottle of wine from the corner store. But that evening, Emily, with her sly smile and dimples, suggested something that nearly made me drop the grocery bag. She was at the stove, stirring a pot of chili, the aroma filling the entire apartment, when she suddenly said, "Dave, how about I tie you up and blindfold you?" I raised an eyebrow, kicking off my sneakers at the door and tossing my jacket on the old couch. "What's that for?" I asked. "It'll be fun. Don't ruin the vibe. Just go with it," she said, with a wink, her voice carrying a hint of mystery, like she was planning something bigger than just a game. I shrugged. Emily always knew how to get me going, and after a long day at the office fixing computers, I was craving something to break the monotony. She led me to the bedroom, where the walls still had the floral wallpaper we put up right after the wedding. She deftly tied my hands to the bedpost with an old leather belt we usually use for suitcases. For my eyes, she grabbed a silk scarf, one her mom gave her as a wedding gift, embroidered with flowers and smelling of lavender. "And I'm taping your mouth," she giggled, pulling duct tape from the dresser drawer. "Otherwise, Susan will complain we're yelling like we're at a flea market." Yeah, we lived with my mother-in-law. Susan was 40, but looked so good that guys on the street would turn their heads, and vendors at the farmer's market gave her discounts. Tall, with a figure like Emily's, just a bit curvier, and with a mature confidence in her eyes that sometimes made me feel like a kid. I'd occasionally catch myself thinking they looked like sisters. But Susan seemed to know some secret Emily hadn't yet figured out. Living with her wasn't always easy. She'd grumble about us watching TV too loud, hint that we should move out, or leave notes on the kitchen counter about taking out the trash. But we got along okay. She even treated me to her famous homemade pies sometimes, which were impossible to resist. "All right, bring out your toys," I muttered, already anticipating something exciting, though part of me wondered if this was just another Emily's pranks. She stepped out, shutting the door, and I heard footsteps on the creaky hardwood floor. A moment later, someone slipped a condom on me and then lowered themselves onto me. But something fell off. The movements were different, the rhythm unfamiliar, even the breathing deeper than Emily's. I tensed, trying to figure out what was happening. Who else could be in our little apartment? Just the three of us lived here. Hands tied, eyes covered, and she was only softly moaning, as if deliberately hiding her voice. They planned this clever, I thought, but they missed one detail: the scent. Not Emily's light floral perfume, but something richer with hints of sandalwood. I bought that perfume for Susan's birthday at the airport duty-free when we took a trip to Mexico. My heart raced. Could it really be Susan, or was I losing it? My thoughts were a mess, but I decided to play it cool. If it was Emily, she was probably trying to trick me. If it was Susan, well, that was a whole different story. About 20 minutes in, I couldn't hold back. She vanished instantly, like she melted into the dark, and soon Emily returned, humming as she untied the ropes. "So, Dave, pretty wild, huh?" she giggled, fixing her hair and tossing the scarf onto the nightstand. I pulled her close, looking her straight in the eyes. "That was your mom, wasn't it?" I said. "You're crazy," she shot back, but her cheeks flushed and I could tell she wasn't shocked, more like she was trying to hide a smirk. "Emily, don't lie, I figured it out. Her perfume, the movements, the rhythm, it was Susan." She hesitated, bit her lip, then sighed, sitting on the edge of the bed. "Okay, fine, I'm sorry. She's always complaining we're too loud, but, well, you get it. She's got needs too. I thought you wouldn't notice and we'd just have some fun." "Seriously? You could have just said something. She's gorgeous," I said with a wink, keeping my cool, though inside I was reeling from a mix of shock and thrill. And honestly, it felt better than usual. "Want to do it again?" Emily looked at me a bit surprised, then laughed, smacking my shoulder. "You're okay with it? All right, I'll think about it, but don't get too cocky, Dave." The next evening happened again, but with more intensity. This time she, or they, were bolder. The movements were surer, the moans a bit louder, though the voice was still disguised. I lay there, trying to figure out who it was, but the sandalwood scent gave her away again. At breakfast, Susan avoided my gaze, pouring coffee with shaky hands. She was in her favorite blue robe, which made her look even younger. Emily shot me sly glances like she was testing what I'd say. I kept quiet, but inside I was buzzing. That day at work, I couldn't focus. My mind kept replaying the night, the sandalwood, the whispers. I even spilled coffee on my keyboard, earning chuckles from my coworkers. That evening, I decided not to wait. I got home early from work while Emily was still at the bank, dealing with loans until 6. Susan was busy in the kitchen wearing a light sundress that hugged her figure. Burgers were sizzling on the stove, and a cutting board with diced onions sat on the counter. I stepped close, my hand sliding to her hips. "David, what are you doing?" She gasped, but didn't pull away, only dropping a wooden spoon. "I know it was you last night. You didn't seem to mind," I said, looking into her eyes. She went quiet, her cheeks flushing. A minute later, the kitchen was filled with her moans. I felt her tremble under my hands, her breathing quickening. "God, you're something," I said, picking up the pace as adrenaline hit me. "Want to try something else?" She nodded shyly, her voice shaky. "Oh, Dave, slow down. Tell me what to do. Take me." I did as she asked. Soon she slid to the floor, trembling, catching her breath. Her hair was a mess, her dress hiked up. "So how was it?" I asked with a grin, offering a hand to help her up. "Insanely good," she breathed, fixing her hair and smiling sheepishly. After that kitchen encounter, a weird vibe settled on the apartment. Emily acted like she didn't know anything, though I knew she did. She even washed dishes with an oddly cheerful energy. Susan blushed whenever I looked at her, and I found myself eagerly awaiting the evenings. Sometimes at dinner, she'd brush my hand while passing a plate, and I'd catch a spark in her eyes. Once when Emily stepped out for seconds, Susan whispered, "David, don't tell anyone, okay?" I nodded, but inside I smirked. The secret made it all more thrilling. A few days later, while serving soup at dinner, Emily dropped a bombshell. "Dave, what if Mom joins us sometimes?" I nearly choked, setting my soda can on the table. "For real? You're serious?" I asked. "Yup, I like that you like her, and I've seen how she looks at you," Emily said with a smile. Susan nearly dropped her spoon into her bowl. "Emily, come on," she started, but her daughter cut her off. "Mom, don't start. We're all adults here. Honestly, I'm cool with it." We hashed out the new rules over dinner like it was a family meeting about remodeling. Susan stared at her plate while Emily laid it out. "So, Mom's with us twice a week, no going rogue, keep it fair. Dave, no stunts like in the kitchen." "What if I want more?" I teased, winking at Susan. She practically jumped in her chair, but a glint in her eyes told me she was in. Our first official night was a Saturday. We had dinner, homemade tacos we made together, laughing when my tortillas kept ripping. Then Emily led me to the bedroom and blindfolded me herself, but sat on the bed instead of starting. The springs creaking. "Mom, go ahead, you know what to do." And I heard Susan clear her throat awkwardly. I felt familiar hands, but then, wait, not Susan. The movements were too sharp. "Emily!" I yanked off the scarf, nearly tearing it. There they stood, both in matching black lace lingerie, probably bought specially at that boutique downtown. "Surprise!" Emily giggled, adjusting a strap. Susan covered her mouth, but her eyes sparkled like a teenager with her first crush. "So you guys are serious," I laughed, but inside I was buzzing. What followed was a night I'll never forget. They were like two sides of the same coin. Emily, bold and confident with her habit of biting my shoulder. Susan, gentle, but with a hidden passion that unfolded with every moment. I lost track of time, swept up in their whispers, laughter, and warmth. At one point, Emily whispered, "So, Dave, no regrets about saying yes?" I just chuckled, too speechless to respond. I woke up to the smell of pancakes and coffee. Emily and Susan were chatting in the kitchen like best friends, debating where to get the best meat at the market or if they should buy potatoes from the guy at the corner stand. When I walked in, they turned and smiled in sync. "Coffee," Susan offered, her fingers trembling slightly as she handed me a mug. I took it, deliberately brushing her hand. "Thanks, Mom." Emily rolled her eyes, spreading jam on a pancake. "Great, now he's going to get all cocky." 6 months later, our life had changed. Mornings no longer start with just coffee. Emily wakes me with soft kisses, whispering, "Mom's too shy to make the first move." Behind her, Susan stands in a satin robe, fussing with her hair. "Morning, son-in-law," she mumbles, blushing and grabbing a plate to hide her embarrassment. "Morning, what? It's even a scheduled day," I tease, pulling on a t-shirt. Emily giggles, pouring tea. "Mom says you looked too good in that shirt yesterday." At breakfast, always a trio now, Emily pointed a fork at a cucumber and said, "How about we skip the blindfold and spy games and just do this together." Susan dropped her fork with a clatter. "Emily, are you serious? That's too much." But I could tell she wasn't so much outraged as blushing to her ears, her fingers nervously twisting the tablecloth. One evening after we watched an old rom-com together, Emily suggested an open night. I thought she was joking, but she was already pulling me to the bedroom with Susan trailing behind, grumbling but adjusting her robe. They stood before me, two incredible women. Emily confidently shed her robe, revealing lace lingerie. Susan followed, her hands trembling. "Mom, relax," Emily whispered, helping her undo the sash. When they were side by side, I knew this was the best thing that ever happened to me. The night was a blur of laughter, whispers, tenderness, and passion. At one point, Susan, casting aside her shyness, reached for me, her eyes blazing. Morning found me in the middle of our big bed, Emily curled up on my left, Susan on my right. Susan opened her eyes first. "David, she started, but I kissed her forehead. "It's all good. We're family." Emily woke up, saw us, and grinned, stretching. "Well, Mom, guess we're officially sharing now." We've got a shared photo album on our phones now, with pictures nobody else will ever see. Evening tea in the kitchen has become our ritual. We laugh, chat, like it's all perfectly normal. Sometimes we go to a cafe together, looking like any other family. Me, Emily, and her mom who could pass for an older sister. But when I catch Emily and Susan's glances, I know we share a secret that binds us closer. Sometimes we reminisce about how it all started. Emily laughs, recalling how she worried I'd get mad when I figured out it was Susan. Susan blushes, but admits she never expected to enjoy it so much. I just listen, sipping tea, thinking this life is like winning the lottery. I've learned you can't buy a family like this. The only downside? I'm bringing home twice as many roses now, and the florist at the market knows me by name. Recently, Susan hinted we should all take a trip to a lake resort. She said, "The sunsets there will blow your mind." I already know that vacation will be unforgettable. Emily chimed in, saying we should bring a tent so nobody complains about the noise. We burst out laughing, and Susan, blushing, tossed a kitchen towel at her.